What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Neg Entropy Chronicles. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and click that notification bell to be alerted anytime I drop a new video. So, I got asked to do part 2. So, let's not waste no time and get into it, alright?
But we don't make a choice that we end up doing a personal problem for the government to handle.
You're going about the government again.
Just because.
Nobody give a damn about the government.
But we're talking about.
Sorry, that's a lie. We call it government assistance, housing, all of that. That's a problem for the public.
A mandatory decision. If you gotta do a mandatory thing, if you gotta make a mandatory decision, someone else has to pay for it. What I'm saying is that women have to face this all the time. By choice or not, it doesn't matter. You don't need, the government doesn't need to take up for you because you didn't know about something. That's just what it is. The government doesn't need to
That's a personal thing. Like, so what do you mean? There's mad petty shit that government pays for. That your taxes, that you work for, that go to the government.
Are you done?
Shabazz, say what you gotta say.
Thank you. That whole situation, you didn't say not a damn thing. It revolves around choice. If a woman
So because of choice, the government should be included.
I let you in. Let me finish. After you made that choice, you know that this child did not come from your womb. You're sitting there, or you take a man that has kids. You make that choice. All I'm saying, we're all playing fields equal. If I know this is not my child, then let me get the choice. Don't allow somebody to go through the whole life of the children being
You can get a DNA test though, but don't make it mandatory for the whole country. Shabazz can do whatever he want with whoever he want, as many times as he want. I really don't care. You have a right to know if this is your child. My issue with him specifically is that you are making it a bigger deal than it needs to be. If you personally are not sure about this child being yours, handle that on your personal level. Don't give the government or the country that responsibility to handle your shit. You was man enough to stick it in whoever. Be man enough about asking about the results.
So back to what I was saying, it's not authentic when she's making that case, because you have food stamps, government assistance, all of these things that are set up for children when fathers are not involved. Who do you think that money's coming from? That's the real question. Like, where is the money coming from? So when you try to say that that's a personal problem, but if you had a child and you needed assistance, who does that fall on? It falls on the taxpayers. This lady who's a taxpayer, that's who it falls on. So how is it all of a sudden that now it's a man saying, this is what I need? It's not accurate no more. That's what I'm trying to figure out. You know what I mean? But let's get back into it.
Definitely think Shabazz would be the kind of guy who cheats and then come back and ask for a DNA test, because that's how it always works out. In my own personal experience, I was being cheated on and I was being accused of doing something, but you know, God works in mysterious ways. So things ended up revealing themselves, and I'm like, oh, okay, I thought I was the one cheating. You were accusing me, but here you are. It's right there. How do you explain yourself? I have a question. What about the men who don't take care of their kids? That don't pay child support. Doesn't the woman still have to take care of them?
That's a woman's fault. If
no, but the thing is, if it's a choice, they don't have a choice. If it's their kids and their husband don't want to pay child support, the women still have to take care of the kids, though.
But that's a you can go to court for that, though.
What I'm saying is, one of my friends is going through that right now. Going to court still don't do anything because the guy can't pay child support and she has to take care of the kids. Is that a choice?
But that's her decision to have a baby with somebody that don't got no money or no job and that ain't shit.
This is the problem when you let people control a conversation that don't know what they're talking about. The question was, should it be mandatory, and why? Because a person feared having a child that wasn't actually theirs. How does this turn into paying child support? If a person's not paying child support, the government will get them. Anytime they get a new job, it will be located, and then they will start to tax them. It happens all the time. If your husband is not paying child support, he's still your husband, so that means he just ain't got no job. Y'all married. This is a marriage problem, right? That would be a personal problem. But regardless, if she's getting assistance, that's coming from the payers, the taxpayers, once again. So we're talking about the knowledge of if the child is yours or not versus things that you already know and they're just not being dealt with. They're going too far everywhere else instead of staying on point. This is why you can't let emotions control a conversation. But let's get back into it.
Like, don't lay in bed with a man that don't got shit done.
But what if he had a job and then he lose it? But he's
So that's a different situation though. But that's not even what we talking about right now though. Like
going out of his way not to pay.
And he had a job, and obviously she sees something in him that makes her not want to be with him. So
that's a different point.
If it was me, I would want a DNA test.
So under any circumstances, you'd want a DNA test, even if you were married or in a relationship with this person.
So then why you want it to be mandatory?
Why not?
I don't understand that at all. You're married, and that's the whole family. Ask and get one.
If anything, if somebody wants to have mandatory DNA testing, which I think is stupid anyway, it would probably make more sense if you were married because there's more of an incentive to know before
but
you
should know. You're married.
How? That's assuming that everybody's good.
Why are you married if you don't trust the woman that you married?
Oh, so now every marriage is perfect.
No. And that's why I said I want to do it during marriage. I want to do that during marriage.
It's hard to have because there's on one side there's an inherent assumption that everyone is faithful and happily married when they're married.
But there is no assumption. It's just the fact that if you think that this person is not being faithful to you to the point where you have to doubt it, don't be with that person then.
Just let me finish. People change. Just because you got married and everything was hunky dory and you guys trusted each other doesn't mean that 3 months after y'all seal the deal, your husband's out there in Thailand smashing a whole bunch of prostitutes. Anything can happen. That's life. It's human nature.
I just want to say something because like that the way y'all come in is making it seem like it's just a perfect world. I got a very much personal tie to this type of situation. Like my dad, before he passed away, he has a child right now, my half daughter, and it's very much apparent that that wasn't his child. My half sister.
More positive. Niggas.
Hey, Crown, it looks like you're dodging the question. What is the answer? If you're in a relationship, if you're married, you're still going to request your wife or your girlfriend, okay, girlfriend maybe, but your wife to have a DNA test?
I said earlier, no, I'm not going to ask for a marriage. If I'm married, I'm not going to ask for a DNA test. But if we're just like in emotion doing whatever, I'm like, yo, this is a request.
I mean, yeah, I totally get
that. Wait, have to pay for that.
Wait, hold on. Let me ask you a cool question. You see how y'all putting the pressure on us or whatever, like, oh, this whole mandatory thing is not. All right, real quick. If you're in a relationship, isn't there times where you will be like, yo, I want us to do a STD testing, right?
That's before we get into a relationship.
No. During your relationship, you never get that. During your relationship, you want to ask for an STD test.
No, I'm saying
you absolutely can ask for an STD test,
but it's not mandatory.
But I mean,
the government is not paying for it.
Would you want them to make it mandatory?
No. Yes. I don't need it.
I don't need it to be mandatory. If you're not willing to do it, then I'm not gonna sleep with you. Period.
That's my case. You have to you have to say for yourself that you're gonna make that happen. No one else needs to take out that conversation for you.
The day my husband come home and ask me for a DNA test for my 3 kids, let's say if we have 3 kids, I am filing for divorce the second day because bottom line is
guilty.
No, I'm not guilty.
Right there is why it should just be mandatory. Because if I'm married to you and you've done something that seems shady, so I ask, let me get the test done, and you want to divorce me after that because I'm asking, I got a story for y'all. See what you think about this story. Dude was married, they're over in an African country, and they got to travel to, I think it was Canada. But wherever they were leaving, because they were leaving with children, you had to do a DNA test so they didn't have to deal with, people's kidnapping kids and taking them, right? So the man and the wife get the DNA test done. All 3 of his kids were not his. All three, not one. Do you know what happened to that woman? That man, when they got back to the house, he ripped her teeth out. Now, she want to talk about getting a divorce. This woman want to talk about a divorce because he asked. But to think about having 3 kids, find out they're not yours, you don't know what any human being is capable of doing. So why not dead all of it, start from an even playing field where everybody knows 100% what's going on. You see what I'm saying? But let's get back into it.
You're guilty. You're guilty.
That's
not
guilty.
You're guilty.
I'm married with you. I'm married.
That's guilty.
I'm married for
You're
10
guilty.
years, and then
Sounds
you
like
wanna-
guilt.
No, that's
Sounds
not
like
guilt.
guilt.
That's disrespectful.
like-
Because to me,
You're
because
guilty.
to me,
Maybe you saw something.
if my husband asked me to have a DNA test for our children, whether it's 1 or 2, I will be filing for divorce, because if you have not seen, if I haven't given you any idea that I'm cheating on you, you decided to ask me for a DNA test, to me, you don't trust me. What's the point of being in that relationship?
That's like, wait, that's like you asking for a lie detector.
Right.
So then if you come and ask me for a lie detector,
I can do a lie detective. I can do a lie detective test, but when you asking me for a DNA test for my kids and we've been together for 10 years, that means
You should have asked me from day one.
That means you're doing something wrong. That means
Why does that mean?
He didn't give birth to the kids. How's he doing something?
You're guilty.
That's not true. No. That's not true. That's dangerous.
That's how it always is. Cheater always like to put
That's a
people
red
at somebody
herring
else.
fallacy.
No,
Yes,
it's not.
that's the
Because
reason why
I was
wrong.
in a situation where I was being accused of.
So
No,
you're
I
having
was
a
being.
personal experience.
No.
It's
Listen,
impacting the way you
I
think.
was being accused of being a cheater when he was in fact cheating on me. So the
That's
fact.
way different.
No, it's not different. It's not different.
Kids are
And
involved,
it's not different.
A DNA test 10 years later because you're having
No. So 10 years later.
a DNA test for something 10 years later means the person have built up doubt, but at the end of the day, it's not something that's crazy as regular cheating, because they're coming to you about, you know that you're the mother of the child, so they're trying to figure out that point, like, am I the father of the child?
So the first one, he had no problem with
if we flipped it up and you're talking about cheating, well, if you ask me for a lie detector test for cheating and I say no, you're gonna say I'm guilty. So if you get so outraged that you said you're gonna file for divorce,
I will, because you don't. You don't have 3 kids? Are you kidding?
If you
I have a
marry,
reason for.
She doesn't even understand her own logic and her own argument. Like, she is literally proving the point, but she wants to deny that because she's just so angry and emotional about this topic. And everybody's getting from the fact that a man has a right to know. Like he said, the only person that knows the kid is theirs is the mother, not the father.
Asking for a
3
DNA
kids.
test.
You waiting for 3 kids?
Maybe I saw something that
If somebody can live 10 years, if somebody lives 10 years,
Sometimes it doesn't come.
at the end of the day, if a man tell me that he want a DNA test for our 3 kids, I'm gonna take it.
Why?
Because I'm not guilty.
But also because you love your husband and you want to prove to him that.
But it's not about feeling like I have to prove something.
But what about
I
the
would take
resentment,
it.
though? That comes with it.
Honestly,
You
though,
can
yes.
get
And
resentment
so
from anything in a
once you find
relationship.
out all the kids are yours, do you think that our relationship is going back to normal?
no.
It's not.
Probably not.
It's
Probably
not.
not. But that's something that you can work on.
Drama for me, and I wouldn't want to do something like that.
That's never something that's gonna go away. If you
didn't say it
ask me
was.
for a DNA test for my kids, it comes back positive. The relationship is not going to be the same. Period.
I mean, why would it not be the same?
Because you showed me that you don't trust me. You've been doubting me for all these years. What have I done to you that you feel like that you've been doubting me for all these years? The line of communication should have been there from day one. When I got pregnant, you should have.
Stupid. Come on, man. Not everybody has the immediate doubt. Not everybody questions it. Babies look like anybody. But when they start getting older and you starting to notice things, now it's like, hold on. If it's the communication should have been from the beginning. So the man wants to communicate with you about something that he's worried about. He communicates with you, and this is the way you act. Instead of giving this man a peace of mind to show, like, look, I've been loyal. Everything's good. I'm sorry that you felt like you couldn't trust me. But instead, it's all of this chaos after that. That shows that they don't want to see their men actually peaceful. These people don't want to see the peace, because they could have been like, man, if he was asking that, what did I actually do? They don't have no accountability for that. Period. But let's get back into it.
Been like, I want to get a DNA test when that baby comes out.
What if it wasn't something that happened for 10 years? Maybe there was a family reunion and a cousin came to your partner and said, hey,
If my husband asked me for a DNA test, one, I would be offended. I would feel disrespected. And, I wouldn't care to ask him why. I would do it to shut him up. I would do it to prove that I'm not guilty, so I'm gonna do it. I don't think I would feel defensive. But at the same time, if you don't why you don't trust me? Like, it will cause an argument. I don't think our relationship would be the same at all.
I think,
So if it's going to cause an argument, why not remove all of those problems and saying a man's weak? So a man's weak if he goes if he doesn't do it and he says, yeah, it need to be mandatory, but then they're okay with the arguments, the offensiveness, the divorces and all of that for him actually being a strong man and going and talking to him about it. You see the contradiction there? Stupid.
I think, DNA should definitely be done at birth. Anytime after that, it definitely will bring into the trust issues, and it also eliminates I raised this kid for 5, 6, 7 years not knowing if the kid was mine or not.
It's luxurious.
Doesn't it steer your mind that quickly?
This shit happen. It's not about putting that shit quickly.
So we're just out here sleeping with cousins now, apparently.
Relax. You're wrong.
See, with that type of mentality, you have the idea that nobody's capable of anything, and that's a dangerous mentality.
Past nobody.
That's what I'm trying to say. You can't put nothing.
Y'all just putting words in my mouth now.
Because the thing about it is, y'all just like girls accuse guys of cheating. That's off the bat. Not doing anything with you. So, but just like you said, you ask for if I ask for a lie detector test and you say no, you're guilty or whatever like that. It's the same.
No, it's not.
No. I'm talking about the guilt.
Is the same thing.
Everything is situational.
We're talking about the guilt. We're talking about
even the guilt. It's not.
It's the refusal part that he's getting at. It's not about a child versus infidelity. If he's questioning it, that means infidelity, first off. And now what he's talking about, the refusal aspect of refusing to do the lie detector test or the refusal for the paternity test, creates doubt and shows that you are guilty of said thing.
Absolutely, it's situational. If I have 3 kids with my wife, it's 10 years into the relationship, and 4 years in, a cousin comes to me that's on her side and says, yo, there's rumors on our side, you might want to look into this thing. And I'm like, nah, there's no way my wife would do that.
Somebody gave you the idea.
There's no way my wife would do that. Everything is normal, everything's cool. 3 more years go by, boom, now you see your wife interacting with that person in a super friendly way. You don't think too much about it, but then that cousin from 3 years ago brings in your head. You still don't say nothing because you love your wife, you trust your wife. These type of things happen.
Ask your wife then. Why does the government have...
So 6 years into the marriage, you now ask your...
Did they not just say, well, now why not just ask your wife? But y'all, every time the person wants to ask, they got a problem with it. Well, why don't you just ask your wife? Well, every time y'all said if I ask my wife, y'all gonna divorce me, yell at me, argue with me, be offended, drama ensues, all of that. You dig? Let's get back into it.
Your wife denies anything happened. Cool. 3 years later, now it's 9 years into the relationship. 9 years into no, seriously. 9 years into the relationship, another family gathering, boom. Now you see the male individual that has been referenced now for the past 6 years is now being super touchy-feely with your wife. Your wife doesn't say anything.
So you just gonna stand there and watch this all go down and nothing from it?
Wait.
Let him finish, jeez.
You confront your wife. Okay, so I saw this and it didn't sit well with me. Can you explain? Oh, nah, it's nothing. Boom, boom, boom. But then that same cousin that was giving you the hints 7 whatever ideas ago was like, yo, by the way, I know you weren't there, but I saw this, that, and the third. So now all the things that you
So Tunde, you ask your wife for a DNA test, your wife get a DNA test, and 2 of your kids are not yours. What are you gonna do?
We're gonna have to have a conversation about it.
What kind of conversation?
Yeah.
We're gonna have
10 years in is a lot different than
I think that's a good question.
So that's a great question, and to be honest with you, the way I would handle it, I would probably want a separation.
Boom, there you go. But y'all were acting like I was being dramatic.
Nobody's being dramatic. First of all, let me finish. Let me explain why. I wouldn't send her packing, but it would be very clear that our union is no longer a union. So, when that happens, what happens? You kind of have to separate yourself from the individual, right? Obviously, there may be things that may complicate that scenario, like maybe I have a relationship with the child that isn't mine. I raised that child, so obviously I'd still want to play a part in that child's life and not let the child suffer for a situation that wasn't his or her fault. So I would still do my best to maintain some sort of stable upbringing for that child, but I wouldn't want to actively, be with the woman that was dishonest with me. I would ask for a separation, likely, because you lied to me.
Multiple times.
I asked you multiple times to tell me the truth. I gave you multiple opportunities to clear the air where I would have forgiven you, if that was the case. You didn't take advantage of those opportunities, and you lied to me multiple times. So because I give you the opportunity to clear the air and be transparent, you refuse the opportunity to do that. And now I have the proof that I need. Now there's no trust at all.
But you got the proof that you needed with or without a mandation.
No, but the mandation helped. No.
This is the problem. Even when she said it, she's still not getting it. It's not resonating in her brain that if she would have and should have done the mandation at the beginning, he didn't spend 10 years, 4, 3, 3. That's 10 years being lied to, being manipulated, being whatever. But now, it's now his fault because what did she say? Oh, you didn't have to do the mandation. She's taken away 10 years of this man's life. 2 of the kids ain't his by the story that they went by. So she's down to waste a man's life for 10 years instead of doing it at the beginning to where he could find out, oh, the kid's not mine. Boom, we done. Stupid. God. Let's get back into it.
No. I agree with you.
You got the proof that you needed without it being mandatory. Therefore, it does not need to be mandatory.
I've never been on the side of mandatory, but at the end of the day, all that 6-7 years that I've been now taking care of kids that aren't mine could have been avoided if she still chose to lie to me after I had a mandatory test done. I'm not advocating for a mandatory test, but I'm simply saying that it would alleviate a lot of the nonsense that had happened in that situation. That's one situation. I'm not saying every situation.
Oh, she said, who's that cousin? So she mad that the cousin snitched. So she's okay with this person being manipulated and lied to all this time. But because the truth came out, well, who's the cousin? Seriously? She hates men. She gotta hate men.
If you had personally went and asked her about it in the first place.
No, I asked her about it 3 times.
I'm saying ask for a DNA test in the first place. What I'm saying is that
I would have asked in the first place. But that's what I'm saying. After the third instance of like, okay,
so
I've
you
seen
just don't want to. You want to avoid an awkward conversation. That's what this is more so about in the mandatory situation.
All right, let me clear something up. For me, in a mandatory DNA test or whatever, this is how I would want it to be. If they're not in a relationship, if they're messing around, if they're fooling around, I believe it should be mandatory, honestly. And that's just, and whether you feel like it's petty or whether you feel
money, just the
mandatory means everybody. If you make it mandatory, it's everybody. Whether you married, you got a boyfriend, a side piece, whatever.
Yeah. But I like, and maybe that's what it was. Like I said, the way I understood the question was a lot different. Like
he didn't get
I mean mandatory like upon request because people duck and dodge.
It is mandatory upon request. Yes, it is. If you go to court and ask for a DNA test, you have to take it.
Yes,
first of all, my dad, like the same situation, like in America, like with a situation where his wife was in his ear and he tried to get a DNA test on me when I was 19. It's not mandatory in the state of New Jersey.
It is.
In New Jersey, I don't have
to ask for it. It's mandatory.
After the kid goes past 18, they don't have to get a DNA test anymore. They don't have to get a paternity test, and not because in that instance, you don't have to do it. You don't have to comply to it.
Let's also talk about the relationship though. My thing is that you've introduced this DNA test however long in our relationship. You find out the kids are yours.
Right.
What do you want us to do now? How are we supposed to get together? How are we supposed to be cool? You don't trust me.
Right. That's why you don't wait to the end. If it's done at the beginning, of course there's going to be trust issues, but across the board, if it's something that everyone's doing, then there's no reason for you to be like, oh, well, you don't trust me because everyone has to do it anyway. That eliminates that trust factor because I'm not asking just you. This is something. It's
going against societal norm. So it's like if everyone had to do it, eventually, like obviously at the beginning there'd be a lot of pushback, but once it takes the onus off. Exactly. Then it wouldn't be like, oh, I requested it or I made you do it.
Or I don't trust you. No, the results
I just feel like if you never had any sign that I was doing anything wrong, there's absolutely no reason why my child has to do a DNA test.
That's part of the problem. A lot of people never get that sign and end up raising a kid that's not theirs. That's fucked up.
No, people are not paying attention then.
It's not about paying attention.
So, I'm in the video there. If you want part 3, leave part 3 in the comment sections. Because, man, the more they talk, the more you can see the energy they have for men, right? because even when it was proven that 2 of the kids wasn't his, now this is just a story that he presented to them, they still found problems with it. They still tried to make it, well, it didn't need to be mandatory. Yes, it did. This man has spent 6+ emotional years invested in children that are not his without his knowledge. Talking about, oh, well, you got to give him a reason and stuff like that. He said he trusted her. He didn't even believe the cousin. He let it slide. Yet they still are. And I'm like, maybe they just don't like men. It's almost like that, or they're just so entangled with their emotions that they can't step away from it and be like, yeah, that's kind of messed up. If I was a dude going through this would be a problem. But let me know what y'all know. Let me know what y'all think in the comment sections. And put part 3 in that boy if you want to see part 3. All right, everybody. Peace.